A few words. I'm Jerry Tellis. I'm the director of the USC Marshall Center for Global Innovation. We have 157 speakers and panelists today, 4 parallel tracks, and 260 registrants. So a little more than expected. So I apologize for those who had to go to the spillover room. But I'm glad you all joined us, and thank you very much, and I hope you'll come again next year. I would like to say I've been working relentlessly day and night to put this whole thing together, but I would be lying to you. This is all the work of David Florence. So please. And I want to remind you to stay back. We have a reception and a dinner tonight, and then plenty of time to network. We've been pretty packed during the day with sessions, but there'll be plenty of time to network at the end. The reception has alcohol, which is free, and is unlimited. But make use of Uber and Lyft.
Great. Thank you, Professor. I'll just take a moment to introduce our next panel. We're all going to have the panel in this room. I'll start again because it was a little bit noisy. So I'm David Florence, your chairman for today's event. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate having you here, and we're excited to have you here. And remember, please feel free to stay for cocktails and dinner. Drinks are on us, and we want to facilitate a great deal of networking and innovation tonight. Plus, I want a percentage of any IPOs that occur. So, without further ado, I'd want to introduce our keynote speaker today from Warner Brothers, Thomas Gawicki. He is the Chief Digital Officer and Executive Vice President, Strategy and Business Development at Warner Brothers. He's responsible for driving the studio's worldwide digital growth, managing its global business strategy, including its mergers and acquisition and investment activities, and leading its worldwide technology efforts. Woo! Thomas oversees and coordinates the studio's various digital strategies to maximize the value of Warner Brothers content across all current and emerging digital exhibition platforms. Additionally, he oversees the studio's corporate business development, strategy, technology, content protection, and anti-piracy. Wow, all in one day. Before we invite Thomas to the stage, here's some highlights about Warner Brothers business today. Now that's what I call entertainment. Well, welcome. Please join me in welcoming Thomas.
Thank you. Is this working? Great. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. And thank you to USC for putting this on. And I actually wanted to start just by mentioning, kind of before I get into the rest of the presentation, that Warner Brothers has a very long history of partnering, collaborating, and really innovating with USC, starting almost 40 years ago when we donated our archives to the film school. And in fact, it still remains the largest single studio collection of documents in the world. And we've been a long-standing partner in the Entertainment Technology Center at USC. We recently became a founding member of the I3, the Intelligent Internet of Things Integrator at USC, which is a consortium that's focused on designing and kind of helping to create the framework to connect entertainment with the Internet of Things and the smart cities ecosystem. And it's a theme that we'll return to during this presentation. It's one of the most exciting sort of parts of the new wave of technology that's coming down the pike. And then, our paper archives are at USC, but over the last 5 years, we've been working with the USC Digital Repository to create digital versions of our movies and television series and to store them at the USC repository as well. It's an incredibly important part of sort of preserving our heritage and legacy. We're the largest library of films in the world in sort of production history. We now have tens of thousands of assets sort of stored in this repository, and we're super excited about that. And so I'm really excited to be here. So I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about entertainment and innovation really from the standpoint through the lens of a large entertainment company, a major studio. And I'm going to end, before the hour is over, and certainly would love to take questions and engage in discussion about all these topics. There are really three things that I want to touch on during my talk today. The first is that on the topic of innovation, innovation is an absolute imperative in our business, in the business of being a movie studio and an entertainment company. Technology is changing every aspect of how we create content and how we distribute it. The only way that we can succeed in our business is to continuously evolve our product, what we make, and the means of distribution, to take advantage of what technology allows, and to go to where the consumer is and to deliver what consumers expect and deserve. In our business, listening to our customer means innovating all the time. So this topic is really interesting on a personal level. The second thing is that innovation is a fundamental part of the heritage and legacy of Warner Brothers. It's in our blood, it's part of our genetic code. For just about a century, we have been in the business of inventing the science, helping create the technology and the platforms, helping innovate, create the new business models and pioneer new approaches to making and distributing content. We have always striven to be at the forefront of what's possible, to be leaders in the marketplace, creating new kinds of entertainment and delivering entertainment in new ways and redefining what it means to be entertaining is something that we as a company are deeply proud of. And it sort of really speaks to, sort of suffuses every part of the company from a divisional standpoint, and it's built into the identity of who we are. And the third thing that I want to touch on today is that even with all that's happened historically, all the change has already occurred in the world and all the transformative paradigms that we've already seen, I actually personally believe that we're kind of on the brink of a whole new era of entertainment. That's going to be powered by the immersive potential of technologies like VR and AR, by the incredible transformation in society that things like autonomous driving and artificial intelligence and certainly smart cities and smart malls and the Internet of Things, the level of connectivity they bring and the level of personalization of the entertainment experience, continuity of the entertainment experience that they allow, I believe has the potential to usher in a whole new kind of entertainment experience, one where we are for the first time able to bring stories to life in a very, very realistic way and program entertainment not just on the screen, big or small, but really on the platform of everyday life. And I'll talk about that kind of towards the end of my talk. And so it's a really, really exciting topic for me. I want to set the stage by sort of talking a little bit about and framing this topic from the perspective that a company like Warner Brothers has on the world, and it's really the perspective of being one of the largest studios in the world. We've been the #1 or #2 producer of films for 9 of the last 10 years. We've been the largest producer of broadcast television programming for the last 9 TV seasons in a row. We have a very large video game business, more than $1 billion of revenue this year. And in fact, we are the only entertainment company in the world that has lead global scale in all 3 major segments of the entertainment economy: film, television, and games. We are home to some of the world's greatest and best known and loved franchises, DC Comics and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and things like Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings. One of the largest sellers of licensed merchandise and t-shirts and toys and every other product category you can imagine. And millions of people every year come to visit the studio tours that we have here in LA and Burbank, but also on our sound stages in Leavesden outside of London in the UK, where we have a studio tour devoted to the Harry Potter franchise. And so, from one standpoint, the perspective we bring to the marketplace when we think about innovation, we think about the pace of change, is that of being a large global entertainment business. We're at the center of the marketplace that's being disrupted. We touch every part of the entertainment economy, and it's hard to imagine a trend in the marketplace or a kind of technology disruption that isn't affecting our business in one way or the other. But at the same time, if you step back and think about what we really do, what is the core product, what is the fundamental mission of the company, if you go to the studio lot and walk around and ask employees what they care about and what they're doing, what they'll say is that we are in the business of creating extraordinary stories that matter, that have purpose, that stir audiences, and sharing them with the world, literally with billions of people every year. With stories that make people laugh, make people cry, make people think deeply. Stories that celebrate heroism and love. Stories that scare. And stories that inspire. We're in the business of creating extraordinary stories before anything else. That's our true north. That's the core thing that we're doing, no matter how the technology of production or the economics of distribution change. And we really are facing a time of enormous change. In kind of every respect that matters, the very nature of what entertainment is in the process of dramatic change. And these changes are ones that everybody knows about. I mean, the great thing about being in the entertainment business is that when disruptive technology comes along, there's no secret. It's not hidden. Everyone in this room is a consumer of our content and our products. All of you are engaged in the sort of our customers of the disruptive technologies that are changing our business. The beautiful thing is that if you sort of look at the quantity of consumption that's happening, there's never been more consumption of video and gaming entertainment ever in the history of the world. The marketplace for our product, in terms of time spent, minutes spent per day, has never been higher. And as one of the speakers on a previous panel said, consumers have never had more choice than ever before. It's an extraordinary time. We've really never been serving our customer better than ever before in terms of the scale and the volume of what we put in front of them. And the quality of what is available for consumption has never been greater, both in terms of, I think, the breadth of creative output and the diversity of what's possible to see, but also, of course, the production quality, the resolution at which it's available, the size of the screen, the depth of the color, and the quality of the sound. At the same time, and as a result directly of all this, the audiences that we depend on for the business models that support all this are fragmenting across this immense variety of choice. It's never been more fragmented, and the pace of fragmentation is accelerating. And at the same time, paradoxically, audiences are aggregating around the biggest global franchises. It has large global event properties of any kind in television or in film or in games have never been able to reach as many people as they are today. They've never been bigger businesses. And that paradox is a really complicated thing for any company or any creator to try to manage. And it's one of the most interesting things about the business today. Every single one of our traditional distribution ecosystems is undergoing tremendous change, disruptive change. There's massive movement of audiences back and forth between platforms. The new platforms and channels and business models that are taking the place of the old are, in some cases, not yet fully established. In some cases, the business models aren't yet clear, even if the audiences are there. In some cases, they're just different, and they require a different approach and a different kind of fundamental way of thinking for the companies that are making the content. And the new technologies that are coming down the pike, VR and AR, the very, very visually dramatic 4K UHD display technologies, the Internet of Things, AI, and many others, are becoming more and more important to designing great entertainment experiences. They require companies who create entertainment to become expert at all sorts of different competencies that weren't always part of the DNA before. So I think the encouraging thing from our standpoint is that from the perspective of a studio like Warner Brothers, none of this is new. Since our company was founded, we have lived in a marketplace where the business of creating extraordinary stories has been confronted by massive, continuous, ongoing change in the means of distribution, the types of technology needed to do production. The pace of change has accelerated, and I'll talk about that more, but the history of our business is one of constant innovation. The Warner Brothers began making movies in 1918. The company was founded in 1923. And for those initial 8 years or so, up until 1926, all of those movies were black and white, and they were silent. In 1926, Warner Brothers acquired Vitaphone, the maker of the synchronized sound projector, and began producing the first talkies, the first movies with sound, first Don Juan, and then The Jazz Singer in 1927. You may not remember this movie. I have a small clip.
Wait a minute.
A landmark at the time. 1929, produced the first all-color, all-talking feature. By 1939, color had become a mainstream, popularized part of the movie business. This year we had Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, two movies in the Warner Brothers library. 1948, Warner Brothers produced the first color newsreel. It was of the Rose Bowl in Michigan and USC. The Scorers lost to history. Those first 40 years, we were only in the movie business. In 1955, we entered the television business along with the emergence and popularization of television. And we've been in the business ever since. As I mentioned, we're the largest producer of broadcast television shows today in the world. 1973, we were the first to use CGI in a feature film, Westworld, which of course was the inspiration for the hit Warner Brothers show on HBO that debuted last year. 1976, the first time 3D wireframing was used, also in a Warner Brothers movie. Up until this point, we had no distribution in the home. In 1978, we released our first home entertainment product, Superman on videotape, and we've been in that business ever since. 1992, the first use of digital Dolby sound, Batman Returns. 1997, after many years of helping, being a really instrumental part of the coalition that invented the DVD, we released the first DVD ever released in the world, the movie Twister, about 20 years after that first video cassette. 1999, this visual effects technology is now used all the time, but this is the first time that the bullet time, slow motion, sort of a special effect was used in a feature film, The Matrix. I think everyone has seen that. 2004, we added our third major content business that we have today by launching our video game business. The video game business today is about $115, $120 billion. Mike Warhouse, you'll know better than I, but in sort of worldwide consumer spend in software alone, not including the hardware console platforms. Just for reference, that is consumers spending 3 times as much money every year buying video games, mobile and console and PC, as they spend buying movie tickets. We started in movies, and we're now in a category that dwarfs it in size in terms of its both global scale and growth rate. 2012, we released the first movie ever to be released widely using 48 frames per second, The Hobbit, and Peter Jackson. Throughout the late 90s and 2000s and into this decade, we have been an aggressive pioneer in moving our home entertainment business from physical to digital. Digital, as you all know, now comprises a dramatically large share of the home entertainment business, increasing all the time. The experience has gotten better and better and better. We now routinely release our movies in an enhanced digital format that is not just the movie or the TV show, but an enormous raft of additional content that comes along with the file. Director's commentary, extra scenes, all sorts of related material and content to try to deliver a better consumer experience. Starting in 2017, we've been an early leader in releasing more and more of our both new release and library content in UHD. This is a new optical format that combines the incredible resolution of 4K with the stunning brightness and sort of visual effect of HDR, high dynamic range. And it's part of a continuing, if you think about releasing that first videotape in 1978, we're in our 40th year, basically, of innovating in the types of product that go into the home and delivering a better and better and better and higher quality experience all the time. And also this year, we partnered with really all the other studios in the industry to launch Movies Anywhere, which after many years of effort is the first time that we've delivered to the consumer a seamless shared entitlement system for digital product, meaning that a very, very core consumer expectation has been satisfied, which is you can buy a movie anywhere, and you can play it back anywhere, and you don't have to worry about incompatible systems or formats. You can buy it on iTunes and play it back on your Google or Amazon device or anything else. And it's a fundamental, very, very important innovation in the digital marketplace that we think will help accelerate its growth even further. And we are doing more and more in the area of VR and AR. I want to play a short video clip for the first VR game that we released, Arkham VR. which is a sort of a chapter in the very, very successful Batman Arkham console game series that we have that was produced by the same studio. And this was the best-selling release on the PlayStation VR platform last year.
Sir, you're here.
So from our standpoint, we've been innovating for 100 years, and the business of being in our business has required that we constantly change what it is that we do, that we invent new technologies, that we lead the market, that we invest in front of marketplaces, and that we always work to bring a better, higher quality experience to the consumer across every platform, in every channel, using every means of production. We, of course, don't do this alone. We work with an incredible ecosystem of partners, an enormous number of filmmakers and creators and talent. We view ourselves as a home for encouraging and driving and investing and funding innovation. Over the past century, we've generated a large patent portfolio. In some ways, we consider ourselves to be a technology company as much as we are anything else. Not to the exclusion of any other part of our business, but it's a fundamental part of who we are. And in fact, increasingly, we look for all of our employees and executives to be as fluent and familiar with technology trends as they possibly can be, to the point where every year now, we work with the best, the most exciting for our parts of the business, technology companies who bring displays and booths and new technology to CES. We invite them back to the lot at Warner Brothers. We clear out one of our sound stages. We host a multi-day event where we have all of these technologies come in and essentially have a mini CES on the lot at Warner Brothers so that we can bring thousands of our employees through and bring the show at Las Vegas here to Burbank. Increasingly, we believe that our employees have to be technology fluent and experts as much as they are anything else. So if you think about sort of where does this all go in the future, we're very, very proud of what we've done and where we've been. And if you sort of go back to the past, in 1923, our business was really simple. We were only in the movie business, and we only exhibited our movies in theaters. There was no home market, no television. We sold tickets, and that was pretty much the only revenue stream. We even owned some of the theaters. You flash forward to 2018, and we're in the business of telling extraordinary stories of every kind, distributing them in every medium. We have 3 major content businesses in movies, television, and games. And we work with literally thousands of partners around the world, every kind of distribution outlet, to reach, again, literally billions of people a year. And when we look to the future, I think there are 5 things that really sort of occupy our time and that we think about that are imperatives as we go into, as I mentioned before, what I think is probably the most transformative sort of period of entertainment change that we've ever had. The first is the need for speed. We've always prided ourselves on being fast and quick to go into the marketplace, and we want to be a leader. We want to be first out with new technologies. But it is impossible to overstate the importance of moving quickly today. We all are aware, we live in a world where the pace of change has become exponential. It's funny, we were looking for images for this chart. There are literally thousands and thousands of different ways you could describe the exponential pace of technology change, and whatever time period you want to pick, all of human history or just the last 10 years, you always get some version of the same curve. It is one of the biggest challenges facing a company like ours, a large global multinational entertainment company with lots and lots and lots of established businesses and lots of established practices, to move fast enough to respond to what technology allows and what consumers want in today's marketplace. And so we have a constant effort underway across the company to advocate for the need for thinking in an agile and nimble fashion, for being unafraid to cast away a business model that doesn't work, for not relying on the fact that we've always done it some way, to keep doing it that way. The marketplace changes all the time. We have a long legacy and history of changing with the marketplace, but we have to go faster. And it's the single most important part of, I think, being a company in today's modern technology era. The second thing is that we're in a marketplace where we have to go direct, not to the exclusion of any other part of our business. We will always have, I think, those hundreds and thousands of retail partners and third-party distributors, and we distribute our content through intermediaries. But today's world is a world in which every company can and every company should also own and control as much direct consumer relationship as possible. Last year, we launched a new division of the company called Warner Brothers Digital Networks. It is in the business of launching and operating over-the-top subscription services that go direct to consumer. It is paired with an enormous effort we have underway at the company to build data, to collect consumer data, and to get expert at understanding our consumer and talking to them directly. We acquired a company called Drama Fever, which is one of our largest services. It imports television dramas from Korea and other countries. We have launched with our sister company, Turner, the Boomerang over-the-top service, which is squarely focused on the kids and family and animation marketplace. We announced today, in fact, another joint venture with Turner to launch a site called Filmstruck International, which is an over-the-top movie service that will be in a variety of countries later this year. And last year we announced that we are going to bring out, in 2018, a DC Comics over-the-top service, which will bring all things DC directly to consumers. We expect to do more and more of this. We believe that we have to be able to communicate directly with our customers, and it's a really, really big part of our strategy going forward. A third and incredibly important thing is that we need to be in the business of making new stories for new audiences. There is a massive shift of audience from traditional channels to channels like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. These audiences are not consuming the same product that exists in those other channels. They are consuming short-form content, socially driven content, content on themes and about topics that we have not traditionally had in the movie and television space. They are consuming content in ways that are highly interactive, that sometimes iterate in real time. We have a huge focus at the company at developing alternate approaches to creating content. We have multiple different divisions of the company charged in different ways with attracting diverse talent, putting new kinds of filmmakers behind the camera and in front of the camera, bringing content of all formats and all forms and in all genres to these channels in new ways, supported by different business models. One of the most challenging things about this, one of the things that's most exciting about it, is that we don't know what's going to work. There's no proven business model. It is frequently a case of investing ahead of where the marketplace is going, but we are absolutely convinced that we have to become as expert at delivering premium short-form content to the marketplace as we are at delivering games and film and television. There's lots of examples of how we're doing this. Just one, last year we acquired a company called Machinima. Machinima is a social video network that is very, very focused on gamers and on superhero fans and the sort of Comic-Con movement. And they produce literally thousands of hours of original content every month across a wide variety of topics, working with literally tens of thousands of creators. And we, among other things, have recently launched a 24/7 channel on Twitch TV, and we're going to do more things like this to create content in a way that is fundamentally different than what we've done before. The third thing that we really spend time thinking about is that in today's world, if you look at the convergence of technology and platforms and entertainment, more and more and more, we are in the business of software. Software, platforms, we're in the business of managing large audiences across platforms, leveraging network effects, driving monetization across many different streams. Video games is a great example of this. In the video game business, we are purely in the software business. Everything we do is about building software, and increasingly, it's about building software and then operating a live game against a live community for years and years and years. The business is closer to Facebook and Google than it is to the business of making a movie. And when you think about what it will be like to operate entertainment in a world of AR and VR, connected into autonomous driving platforms and Internet of Things ecosystems, that's going to look a lot more like software and platform economics as well. And And I want to give an example of many of our games are based on our core franchises, as you can see up here, but we also have some of our most successful games, in fact, are casual mobile games that operate very much around building an incredibly fun, enjoyable mechanic and just letting large numbers of people play it. And I want to play a quick clip of how our Golf Clash game works. So this is a free-to-play game. If you have kids, you know how these games work, and I'm going to stop on this for a second. This is a game that's played by millions of people a day. All of our investment in the game at this point goes into making it better and better and better all the time. We'll be developing this game for years to come. Every month, more people play it than the previous month. Every month, it generates more revenue than the previous month, which is the nature of these casual mobile games. In order to make it work, the engineering and development team that is working on it, the creative team, is constantly looking at millions and millions of data points of telemetry in the game to see what people do and what they don't do, who takes what opportunity, when does the gameplay become satisfying or unsatisfying, what drives a transaction, what drives revenue and monetization in the game. They're constantly looking at acquisition and churn. There is a massive operation, a platform economics operation running and operating this game, and that is, in a very real way, the kind of entertainment business that we are preparing ourselves to run on a broader basis as we think about how technology will converge into all the other parts of our business. Being in the game business, being in the software business is increasingly, I think, a preparation and a paradigm for what the rest of our business is going to look like over the coming decade. The final thing that we really are spending time thinking about is the idea that the connection between entertainment and experience. Particularly around our biggest franchises. And I'm going to use the Wizarding World of Harry Potter as an example. This is you've all read the books, you've seen the movies. If you are a Harry Potter fan, and there are a really, really large number of Harry Potter fans in the world, not only do you like the stories, not only are you a fan of the movies, not only do you like buying the merchandise, but people want to be in the world of Harry Potter. They want to inhabit the universe. When we have our studio tour at Leavesden, which people come to, millions of people a year, every holiday season we create a series of special events where we let people come and have dinner in the Great Hall. If you've read the books or seen the movies, you know how important, iconic a location that is. The tickets for these events sell out in minutes. There's no way we could ever create enough dinners to satisfy the demand, and which is good. And it's one example of how seriously people take it. We announced recently that we've partnered with Niantic, the maker of Pokemon Go, and the next game on the Pokemon Go platform will be a game called Harry Potter Wizards Unite. And we think it's going to be a really, really interesting way to let Harry Potter fans, participate in a really exciting augmented reality experience with their mobile phone all around the world. And every year at Universal, if you've been to the Harry Potter Wizarding World experience at the Universal theme parks, you know how amazing that location is. And every year, we with Universal host an event called the Harry Potter Celebration, and thousands of fans come to participate in just a small part of feeling like they're in the world of Harry Potter. And I want to play a video clip that kind of shows that.
It means so much to me, and then it means even more now that she's into it. We're into it together, and it's a bonding thing.
We've been every year, and I think we're always going to come. We love it. It's just the environment.
It's so monumental. You have all the stuff and the rides and the castle.
There's something so special about coming here to the Wizarding World. I mean, even the actors have said that the movie sets weren't like this. I mean, this is being here, being at Hogwarts in Diagon Alley.
I mean, I walked through and I can experience, I was like, hey, I'm actually in the movies, and what I saw in the book also for visual description for myself, and I cried a little bit.
Loved it last year, and gonna do it again, and again, and again, and again. As long as it happens, we'll keep doing it.
I play that because I think when we see that passion in a global audience of fans for a franchise, and we think about what the future technology holds. I'm going to talk about augmented reality and VR a little bit. We think that the business we could be in the future is one not just of telling linear stories, not just of putting video on the screen, not just letting people play mobile games, but letting them live in the creative universes that our filmmakers and creators and talent and writers create. Letting fans get that fullest realization of what living in that world can be. And that will involve us in the business of programming entertainment on the platform, really, of everyday life. And that is sort of the next generation of where we go. And if you think about the relationship between that and being in the software business, being in the platform business, being great at data, being great at running live operations, being great at running businesses where we manage the experience of millions of people a day, all as part of that greater rubric of storytelling, that's where we think it's going. And you think about the platform of the autonomous car, which is still a little bit out there, but we think it's an incredible opportunity. It's potentially the single largest introduction of new entertainment time in the history of, certainly in the last 50 or 60 years, as people switch from driving their cars to being in their cars while they are driven on a mass scale around the world. And we think there's a world where, using the magic of this technology, we could take your commute, which might look like this today, and make it feel a lot more like you're driving the Batmobile, which would be a lot more fun. Or even, flying in the air, and surround your visual sort of environment with a very, very different look and feel. And of course, we also think people are going to watch movies in their car and experience entertainment in traditional ways. But we're not too far away from technology which would let us really wrap the interior of the car with screens and replace the windows with something that would let you transform what the outside world looks like. And if you think about, go back to this idea that if we can do a great job of building narrative experiences that let consumers live in their favorite worlds, I think we've created a whole new category of entertainment. And so I want to close my remarks here with, I want to play the Ready Player One trailer, not just because it's an amazing Warner Brothers movie that's coming out in just a few months, but because, as I'm sure you all know, it's a Steven Spielberg movie. It's based on the amazing novel by Ernie Klein. But, it happens to evoke a potential future that is just like this, where the business of providing entertainment, where the creative activity of making entertainment exists in a world where the technology and the platforms are such that you can bring people into their favorite creative universe. And so I'll play that trailer and close and then be happy to take any questions. It's going to be an awesome movie. And just to sum up, for me personally, I think it's inspiring to look back in the history of Warner Brothers and see how much innovation has been part of our history. It is, I lead our technology teams, I lead our corporate development teams, and we spend a lot of time thinking about where the marketplace is going and what we need to do in the company to react and respond to what consumers want. And it's incredibly exciting. And we genuinely, when we look at what the technologies coming down the pike are going to allow, it feels like we really are on the eve of an entire new generation of entertainment, a whole new category and paradigm where we can take that core mission of being great at making amazing stories and bring them to life in a whole new way. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Question I have is one category you haven't touched on that was disrupted and almost destroyed by digital technology is the music business. Could you comment on that?
Sure. I mean, in fact, I spent 8 years working at Sony Music. Before I came to Warner Brothers, I had a great experience there. I joined in 1999, which is the year that CD sales hit their peak. And every year thereafter, the market declined precipitously as piracy and digital downloads and the whole digital revolution took hold. And before I came to Sony Music, I actually worked in the print publishing business. I got my start in computer magazines. It was the first part of the publishing industry that began to be disrupted by internet advertising because all of the subscribers had computers. And I've sort of seen over the last 25 years wave after wave after wave of disruption with digital disintermediation changing the business models for different companies. And I think that different industries, I've been really, really impressed with the resilience of the film and television businesses and the games business in particular. They've all benefited from everything from different business models, the existence of windowing as a core sort of strategy, in some cases just being harder to pirate. It was for a long time, the bandwidth and the storage restrictions on digital copies of movies and television just made it more onerous to make copies, and that was a real advantage for that business. If you look at the games business, you could argue that the video games business has never gone through that curve. There was never a sustained decline in the total video game business. There was just a really accelerated shift from physical to digital. And every media business has handled that digital transition in a different way. And the further out you get from the sort of birth of the internet, the better media businesses in general have done. I think they've had more time to sort of respond. I think that the lesson, the music, the sort of the experience of the music industry, which of course today in many ways is coming back with the advent of streaming and the massive flow of consumer income and advertising into the business. We're seeing the growth, certainly the decline in the business stop, and I think a lot of analysts and market watchers think that the business is going to grow in the future. And I think it's a sort of a lesson in how long it takes. But if there is a core lesson that I think everyone has observed from the experience of those media industries that went through this in an earlier way, it's that you have to be incredibly pragmatic and clear-eyed about what's happening. You cannot rely on the past. You can't say that because this is how we have done it historically, we're going to do it in the future. The only thing you can ever do is go talk to consumers and see what they're doing. And whatever they can do, they will do. Whatever the technology allows is going to happen. And then you have to build a business model around that, not around any other sort of philosophical or historical point of view. I think that the film and television games businesses have actually done a pretty good job of doing that, even in the early years. And I think if you look at the last 5 or 6 years, there's been, of course, a massive acceleration of effort to transform in that way. And so I think it's ended up being a really, really good lesson.
Sure. So I think one of the things that didn't really get touched on too much is if we look at the democratization of the means of production. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's something that's impacted a number of industries. But if you look at the entertainment industry, you look at any child out there, most of what they're watching are things that other kids are making. Or even we talk about, hey, gaming, it overcame, film just over a decade ago. But now kids are watching other kids play games. Mm-hmm. The point being that you have so many people creating content now, whereas, in the traditional studio world, you were the content creator. How does that start to change what you do? Do you guys start to open up your properties? Do you start to allow people to take your properties and do new things with them that maybe you hadn't thought of it before? What are some of the business models that you guys are looking at, or what are some of the things that you look at as more and more of the younger generations don't watch as much scripted content as before, but are instead turning to content that is created by individuals who are writer, director, actor, with their cell phone or whatever, their webcam, etc.
Right. Yes. So yes, 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 and yes. And I think that's very well said. It's absolutely right. It's an enormous part of our discussion internally about what the world is becoming. I have 3 kids. They don't really watch any linear television. It's all on demand or SVOD. They mainly play mobile games, a little bit of console. As far as I can tell, they get almost all of their cultural information about what music to listen to, what books to read, and even what movies to watch from YouTube and Facebook and from people snapping them. And it's a totally different vein of information, and it's they devote many more hours a day to watching short form content created by non-professional creators than they do to watching traditional narrative content created by big studios. And that is a reality, and it's going to continue. So we are approaching that from every possible direction. One, we try to make the core content we do create, we try to make available in all those channels in lots of different ways. And we're making more and more and more content that is not part of the main story, but part sort of shoulder content and ancillary content that can be released before, after, or simultaneous with our major film and TV and game releases to be on those channels. The reason we acquire companies like Machinima and have launched our digital networks group and we have a lot of other sort of holdings and studios kind of in that area, is to be in that business of, in some cases, we're not going to be the creator of the content, we are going to operate the platform where thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of other people are creating content, and we think that is an absolutely valid and valuable part of the ecosystem for us to inhabit. We talk a lot about, should we be open sourcing, in a way, some of our content? Should we take key brands or franchises or IP, and should we let consumers do things with them? And there's lots of different ways you can do that. We think it's a really, really interesting and intriguing idea. It happens organically already, because if you go on YouTube and we are not out there stopping anyone from doing, parodies or satires or mashups or, creating art with our content. We think that's a very vibrant, interesting short-form ecosystem, and it's what consumers want to do today. So I think we view it as an opportunity. The business of being the business of storytelling, we think, can occur in all these platforms, and we think that our brands and our franchises end up being a really, really interesting framework for people to experience in those ways. If you think about sort of how I ended my talk talking about experiences and living in the world, living in the world of Harry Potter, that is a different business. Being in the business of providing people with the experience of living in the world, in a creative universe, is different than being in the business of making a movie. It's still storytelling, it's still story making, it's universe building, it's world building, but it's different. And I think that we are going as fast as we possibly can towards a future where we are in the business from all those different angles and embracing it. We think it's a really, really powerful and exciting thing.
Follow-up question to that. A follow-up question to that. We are able to identify which content is going to go viral before it becomes viral.
I wish we were.
Yeah, we are able to do it with 95% accuracy. If we find your content to go viral, can we license it and pass it on to the younger generation to make parody? The example is, in India, there's a movie which is called Padmavati, a Gomer song. We were able to tell it's going to go viral within the first 1,000 views. It hit 100 million views right now. And people all over the world are making songs similar to that. And some of them are getting sued. Because they're getting 3 million eyeballs, 5 million eyeballs.
Yeah.
Is it an easier way for them to license?
Yes, so I think, well, on the music side, I mean, we're not in the music business, but I think in general, we are open to everything. I think that, our entire history has been about changing our business model to be, as much as possible, in a leadership position as technology and consumer taste change. The challenge we always face is that today is that pace of change is almost unintelligible. It's almost impossible. You can't write it down. Every time you do a briefing or talk to a consultant or look at the graphs, it's all changed. You have to kind of in real time react. And increasingly, I think we feel like we're going to be in the business of running real-time platforms that change all the time. Our mobile, as I'm sure you know, I mean, when we build a mobile game and run it as a live operation, we change what it is. The game itself is going to be very different in 2 years than it is today because it will react to what consumer gameplay is like. And so we're really open to new business models. We are incredibly focused on this idea of how do you aggregate audiences. The fundamental economic problem we face with most of our content is that the audiences are being fragmented across different platforms, and so it's hard to get to critical mass. So finding new channels that let us get to critical mass, no matter how, is incredibly important. Maybe one more question?
Hi, thank you. That was a very interesting talk. I wanted to ask about one of the slides that you had maybe a third of the way in, where you talked about how consumers have access to more content than ever, higher quality content, but particularly that they have more choices than ever before. And yet, when you see in the entertainment market, you have more and more sort of a concentration. You've got a three-way, monopoly basically between the three biggest entertainment companies. So how can you sort of reconcile those tendencies? On one hand, consumers have so many choices. On the other hand, the big entertainment companies are getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a really interesting paradox. I think, I was listening in on Mitch Berman's panel, and I think someone, Mitch, on your panel said that, brand and franchises, brand have become a way for consumers to deal with the challenge of discoverability in a marketplace that's incredibly fragmented and has a lot of choice. And I think that's what's happening. I think on the one hand, if you're out there looking, and if you're using social channels to sort of help decide what you see, then there's an incredible array of choices, and you can find the content that's exactly right for you. On the other hand, the business of what consumers want with entertainment is not just exactly the programming that's curated perfectly for them. They do want that, of course. They also want to be part of an experience. People want to watch TV that generates water cooler moments. They want to go into the office and say, did you see the episode of Game of Thrones last night, and can you believe what happened? They want there to be big global movies that everybody sees and that become shared parts of society. And if you go back to this idea of the mission statement, creating stories that matter, that people care about, and that are shared stories. People want to share, they want to have a shared experience. Thousands of people go to those Harry Potter celebrations not because it's a customized, personalized experience just for them, though of course they're wearing the costume and they are having a personalized experience, but because they want to be part of the broader community. And I think that's the answer to the paradox, that people want both things, that the technology and the platforms finally exist to allow us to deliver both things. There's actually, I think, a desire for there to be more and bigger event properties that can generate that kind of communal feeling that I think as a society and as a people we really want. And so both things can coexist. Great. Thank you very much.